and welcome to Abnormal Presence Touring Talkies. I'm Kamla Iyer. Today, our Sari-torial Safar takes us to Bengal, the land of fine muslins and silks, jamdanis, tant, tangel, balucharis, batiks, kanthas. The list is endless. A sari voyager's delight, it will take several episodes to appreciate the rich textile tradition, culture, and history of Bengal. How can we do Bengal and not feature the power couple who are responsible for putting Bengal handlooms on the world map? They're responsible for making handlooms from Bengal contemporary, accessible, fashionable, and affordable. The power couple I'm talking about is none other than Rumi and Bappaditya Biswas of the famous Byloom in Kolkata. They both met at an export house in Kolkata where they worked together as textile design consultants. They left and started Byloom together in 2002 and the iconic store Byloom in Kolkata in 2011. And the rest, as they say, is history. It's my pleasure to invite Bappa to my show today. Thank you very much, Bappaditya, for accepting my invite and coming to the chat show.
With pleasure, absolutely.
Yeah, one of the things COVID has done is it has helped me come in contact with a lot of experts who I would have loved to interview in a normal time, but a normal time would be impossible to kind of pin them down. So I think one of the advantages of this time is I'm able to get people face to face. And you and Rumi as a couple is someone I've always admired. I'm a student of marketing. And what you have done to brand Bengal, if I might say so, handlooms, through your brand Byloom and Byloom the store, is something which brand designers, brand owners and designers world over would kind of, give everything to create a brand like what you've created. So first of all, congrats for that because you've put Bengal Handlooms on the map. So my first question
Thank you very much.
would be, you are from NIFT, the batch of 2000. Rumi is from NIFD, I believe, same batch of 2000. And you were together in an export house. And then you started Byloom in 2002, if I'm not mistaken, and 2011 Byloom. Tell me, how did your journey start? Were you from a textile or a fashion designing background at all, from a family point of view? What was your, what is your vision when you started something like that? And how, you just take us through your journey because it's so interesting for us to listen to that.
No, it's a long, very long story. If I have to start from scratch, how this whole thing started. But I think that whenever I've spoken about this to people, they've always found it very intriguing. I mean, I am absolutely from a non-textile background. I'm from Siliguri, a place up near the hills in the north of Bengal, and ours is a family business, and we were into tea. We had tea gardens, and that's where I was brought up. And I'm the only son in the whole joint family. It's a joint family business, so there was a huge expectation that I would take up the tea business and run it. But I studied commerce. Then when it was time for me to then I started going to the tea garden actually, and so working there. But after 1 or 2 years of working, I figured that this is not what really I would like to do in my life. I mean, I used to enjoy the nature, as to enjoy, because tea gardens are beautiful, and near the hills you can imagine how beautiful and scenic the place was. But it was not something which my heart belonged to. So then it was really a long journey for me to figure out what is it that I want to do. And textile was actually nowhere near it, because I don't have an art background. I've never learned how to paint or draw. No one in my family ever has come close to textile. But why textiles? And I realized that when my as a child, I used to really love enjoying watching when my mother used to open her wardrobe, and every year, once after the monsoon, because we have heavy monsoons, she would take out all our saris and take it out for drying and put it up out in the sun. Those childhood memories really came back to me after so many years, and I realized probably that's where my passion lies, because that is what I really used to enjoy from inside, looking at them, touching them, feeling them. And so after so many years, I didn't even have a clue where someone learns textiles, or where does someone go to a school to study design, because Siliguri at that time was quite remote, and we didn't have much of internet, and no access to much of information. So against wishes of my entire family, I kind of went out and found out about NIFT. NID by that time was too late for me because I was much older for their course. But luckily, NIFT Calcutta had just started, and they started the 2000 batch of textile design, which was actually an evening course. Not even a regular course, but that was my best bet, because I had no other option. So I literally, 15th of August, I still remember, I think it was 1998. Yeah, 15th of August. I opened the newspaper and I saw that an advertorial from NIFT Calcutta, where they were inviting applications for students who would be interested in their evening course of textile design batch, their first batch. And I just jumped into it. I told my family. They were totally against it, but I said, I have to give it a shot, because deep inside there was something which told me that I need to figure out whether actually this is something which I would like to pursue or not. So I literally ran away from my house, came to Calcutta, had my cousin over here, stayed with her, and went to Calcutta NIF. Somehow, convinced my dad that he need to pay for my fees, because fees were quite expensive. I didn't have the money. So he gave me the fees on a condition that after the course, I'm going to come back and join the TV business. But luckily, once my course got over, I got a job in Calcutta, that export firm where I met Rumi. So I never went back, and he was very upset that I didn't keep my word. But I got a job, and so I didn't go back, and that's how my textile journey starts. And Rumi is also, I think we were kind of destined to meet at some point, and that export house was a pivotal point or a place, because Rumi is a master's from Jalapur University here in Calcutta in comparative literature, and she's an extremely brilliant student. She qualified NET and was about to become a professor when something happened, and she just left everything and thought that she wants to learn textiles. So she joined NIFD, and similarly at the same time. By this time, I went to Philadelphia for a short period of time while I was doing my job to get trained in printing. And then I came back and I put in my papers in the export firm, saying that, I want to leave my job because I want to start my own thing. And that's when they hired Rumi for my place. And we worked for 6 months together. Then I left. And so by the time we left, I think we had already thought that we want to do something of our own. And she left after some point of time. And then by 2002, we started Byloom. So that has been our journey. So if you really look from a top view angle, you'll see actually two people probably working towards a certain common meeting point. And, situations happen such that both of us, we kind of met, and that's how Byloom started. So yeah, it's an almost incredible way how I think probably both of us we met.
Yes, it's the universe conspired to make things happen for you, and it just you had a deep
I
passion.
believe in it. I believe in it in a way, because otherwise there is no really logical explanation to, what happened in both of our lives.
Absolutely, and the world of handlooms is grateful for that to have happened to the two of you. So when you started Byloom in 2002, Does Byloom by itself mean something? The brand, does the name mean something?
No, I think I'll give you a bit of a history. Like you earlier, the question you asked as to what was the vision when we started Byloom, and probably the name also kind of is in there. When me and Rumi, we decided that we wanted to do something of our own. Textiles is a vast area. There's printing, there's embroidery, there's weaving, and it's huge. Like you can, and then there are handmade textiles, machine made textiles. So it's a huge, vast area. So but during our work at the export house, we kind of met few weavers who would come to the export house to kind of do some sampling work and some scarves, woven scarves. And so once we went, both of us, we kind of went to Fulia, the place where they would be coming from. And that was my first visit actually to Fulia. What I saw, I think really changed our whole perspective. Today, the birth of Byloom happened because of that. It was just after 2000 and turn of the millennium, and we happened to go there. And at that point of time, Bengal Handlooms was going through a big slump. I mean, there was hardly any work happening, and it was in a very, very bad shape. We saw them selling handlooms, dismantling handlooms and selling them off as firewood. It was so bad. I mean, there was no work, and even if they did weave, it wasn't selling. So they were selling them the wood, because the handlooms is made out of wood. So they were selling off the wood as firewood. So at least that was bringing in some money to them, so that they could feed themselves. So it was in such a bad state, you can imagine. And so that kind of moved both of us, and we thought that these people are so skilled by themselves. They have such a rich knowledge, which have been passed on from their forefathers to them. And if one generation, I mean, I'm sure if it had continued, the next generation wouldn't have come to this trade because it didn't have any money. So the entire knowledge would get just lost, because weaving is not taught in our schools and colleges, that someone can go and learn how to learn the tricks and the skill. So it's always passed on from the father to the son, or the daughter, and that's how they pick up, and that's how they see them. I mean, weaving all the time in front of their house, because every weaver has one or two looms in their own house, and they sit and weave, and that's how the children, they learn the trade. So you can imagine, if one generation doesn't come into this trade, means that the skill will get completely. So that kind of really got inside both of us, and we thought, if we have studied textile design, I think one thing that would be really worthwhile, if our knowledge of learning how to design textiles can come to use, and this community can rebuild themselves around that. So that was the whole idea behind why Byloom started, and how I think otherwise Byloom probably wouldn't have been known for its weave, because probably we wouldn't have even ventured out there. But because I was always very attracted to printing, and that's why I went to Philadelphia to learn how to print. Weaves was never in my I never kind of thought about weaves, but that really opened up a new scenario in front of me. And then both of us, we realized that if we really want to make a mark in the textile design market, then one would have to create his or her own texture, because otherwise, see, for printing or embroidery, we are totally dependent on the market, because whatever we buy, Chinese chiffons and georgettes and satins or cottons, and we print on them, or we do embroidery on them, but we don't think about the actual base. So then we started thinking, handlooms is the best option, because they allow us to create that different base, that fabric. I can bring in the innovation from the fiber level, from the fabric level, and then obviously then your products start becoming unique, because you are actually changing the base. You're not printing on mass-produced item, which everybody is, working on. So we started thinking, because another thing we thought was that embroidery and prints are all superimposed. I mean, there's a fabric and you are superimposing an impression on top of the cloth. But here we are getting the ability to change the cloth. I think that was much more attractive to both of us. And then we thought, okay, we are going to work with weaves. Our main focus became that community that we started working with, because I think their distress was something which triggered in us that if we have studied textile design, then that is where our the utility of our education is probably we can put it to test over here, and we can actually see whether we can really take it forward or not. And we decided to specialize only in handlooms. So we just started working with that group and stayed with them, and we still continue, I mean, working with them for and then coming to the name Bailu is that, so when we started creating these weaves with our special yarns and twisting and turning and sequins and all that, it was something completely which the market had never seen in their lives. And also probably why, because we had restricted ourselves that we are going to stick to handloom. So we thought that once a cloth comes off the loom, we are not going to do anything to it. So there will be no finishing, no embroidery, no printing. So whatever has to be done at the loom stage. So that was also another restriction which we had put around us, helped us to push the boundaries of handlooms to an extent where people said, wow, I have not seen anything like this ever in my life. So then we started thinking about the name, that what should be the name. But then both of us, we thought that the name should be so universal that it shouldn't refer to a particular region or a place or a community or a skill, because the products that we are creating are so unique in itself, it should have its own identity. So we said, no, we can't have a name, so let's coin a name. So we started playing with letters, and this name Byloom doesn't have a meaning. It kind of formed while we were playing with the letters, and it came up, and both of us, we liked the sound of it. And we said, okay, let's just keep it Byloom. So it became Byloom. So that also became a point of conversation, like today, how you asked me that, I mean, what does your name mean? Because it's also very intriguing for people to know what's the meaning of the name Byloom. So basically, it represents the freedom of expression, that and also that's exactly what we were trying to do with the handlooms of Bengal at that point of time.
Okay. And then when you started your store Byloom in 2011, so from 2002 to 2011, what were you doing with Byloom? How were you selling the stuff you created out of the looms? And why did you choose to call your store Byloom and not Byloom then?
Mhm. So when we started doing scarves and home soft furnishings, like quilting and all of that, because if you go to the village, every family, the women, they quilt for themselves. So then we started weaving the fabric and asking them to quilt. So we created a home soft furnishing line of quilts and cushions and all of that, and we started doing accessories like scarves and woven scarves. And so at that point in time, we would go to trade fairs and try to secure orders. So it was basically a 100% export company that we started, where we used to export all our products. So we used to travel abroad or in India, we used to go to these trade fairs and we used to get orders, and that's how we used to work. So in 2005, I think that it's another, I mean, a huge turning point in terms of the Byloom, Byloom, the brand, is that the Delhi Crafts Council, I mean, we didn't know about any crafts council that exists. So we get a phone call from Delhi Crafts Council saying that, sorry, this is 2004, we get a phone call saying that, we have seen your scarves, you do wonder, because our scarves were also very, very innovative, because we were all weaving the sequins inside or introducing fabrics and texturing with various yarn, because handloom earlier was known for only a very, say, a flat base. People never experimented with the texture and the feel and the fall of it. So we were doing all of that. So we get a call saying that, we have this annual sari exhibition, and we love your scarves. I've seen it somewhere. So why don't you do saris like that? So I have a very bad experience with sari exhibition, I have to tell you. When I had initially started in year 2002, we thought that, saris would be a wonderful, more comfortable weaving saris, because they're used to that concept of a product of a sari, because they are traditionally all sari weavers. So we thought we would participate in a sari exhibition, and how naive I was. I made around 13 saris, 1-3,
Mm.
all from one warp. So they were all similar looking, 13 saris. I went for this show in Delhi, had a small table in front of me with 13 saris, and other stalls were like flowing out with the products and saris, and there were a huge crowd. People were coming to my stall, seeing the 13 saris, and they were literally laughing at me. I mean, oh, Abu, what is this?
Mm.
So I didn't sell any saris. Rather, I lost 2 saris. Somehow 2 saris got stolen, and I never got the money for it. So after that, I had sworn that I'm never going to weave saris in my life. So when that phone call came from Delhi Crafts Council saying that why don't you do saris, immediately I said, no, I don't want to do saris at all. I'm not interested in saris. So this lady over the phone, she was very persistent, and she said, no, we really feel, that your saris would do very well. I've never seen any weaves like this ever in my life, and these would be so new. It would be a new kind of saris. So I kept saying no to her, and I put the phone down. Then she called up again, and then Rumi said, if someone outside has so much of faith in our product, maybe we should give it a try and see whether there's something in it, because that lady seems to be very confident when she kept on persisting that we should make saris. And so then we told her, okay, we'll try and do some saris. So we made a variety of saris. We took around 80 saris, and with various color combinations and variety, and we went for the fair in 2005, and we came back with 4 saris.
Wow.
So it was a huge turning point. And with Indian women wearing saris, I think we never looked back after that, and we just went on from strength to strength. And I started enjoying saris, because saris is like a huge 5.5 meter canvas, and you can keep experimenting textures and colors and jamdani and so many things. I mean, sari, I think, is a wonderful canvas that way, and a real experimentation. And Indian women love experimenting with saris. I've seen, if you really see the growth of saris, the modification of saris, it's immense. And so many designers have jumped into saris after that, and have created such wonderful pieces, everybody. But that hunger of more and more saris is still there. So it's a huge market out there. That's why sari started. We started dedicating a small room in our office in Calcutta, where we started stocking our saris, and people only who would know us would come over. And that's how we met Malavika and Jeet Banerjee, with whom we partnered together, and Byloom came up in later. And Malavika was a very good client of ours. That's also another very interesting story. Is around 2009, we started feeling that Byloom should have its own store in Calcutta, like a physical store. And we started looking for these old houses in Calcutta with old architecture, because I think that's how we visioned how our store should be. We were hunting for almost 1 year. We were not getting any houses, because these houses are old houses, and the owners don't want to sell it to someone who doesn't want to break the house. Because if you're not breaking the house, it doesn't make any sense for them, because our builder would break the house and make so many flats, and they would get a flat and money, whereas here they were just getting the money and not the possession of the flat. So they were not interested in selling old house to us right away. And so finally we found this house, which we really loved and liked. but it was way beyond our budget. We tried to negotiate with the bill and with the owner, and it didn't work out. So we left it after that. And one day I was just talking to Malavika casually, and I started saying we are hunting for a house for almost a year. There's no luck, and I don't know where it's going. Maybe. So then she just said that Jeet and myself just bought an old house just a few months back, and it's just lying empty, and we have really not thought what to do with it. So if you really want to do something, why don't you do it? So I said, which house? And she said that there's this area where Byloom is. It's called Hindustan Park, which is a very old posh locality. We had exactly seen that particular house which we had liked, and we had negotiated for that. And I said, oh, you bought that house? Because that was the only old house on sale in that area. And she said, yes, we bought it. I said, I think then it's destined that Byloom should happen over there. And that's how we formed a partnership. And they came with the house and we came with the products, and we formed Byloom. Now the question as to why it wasn't named Byloom and why it was Byloom. Because I think we believed in creating a platform, because we had to struggle really a lot from 2000 to say Byloom. We had to really struggle because everywhere people are not very open to your ideas or your products, or even I've seen big stores, huge stores, they're not totally dedicated to handlooms or handmade product, because there will be, say, for a huge well-known store, there'll be a handloom section, there'll be chiffons, there'll be georgettes, there'll be prints, there'll be embroidery, everything there, because they want to cater to everybody. But what we wanted to create a platform where only handmade products would be available. So it would be dedicated completely to handloom. Everything, whatever is available over there would be handmade and handcrafted and all that story in it. So obviously we were not making everything. So we had to also borrow stuff from a lot of other people. Have also kind of struggled and dedicated a whole part of their career to create handmade products and handloom products. So we thought that, okay, why not create a platform which would showcase everybody's products who are into handloom and handmade products. So then we didn't want to name the store Byloom, because Byloom, although is the anchoring brand of Byloom, but apart from Byloom, there were a lot of other products that we wanted to showcase that is handmade. So we started also showcasing people whose vision we also believed in, and so that's how Byloom formed. Byloom, it's automatically said. Talks about handcrafted and handmade products. And so that's why we didn't keep the name Byloom, because we wanted it to be a platform, a much more bigger platform than just a Byloom product.
Okay.
Line.
Makes sense. So I've also read that you now currently work with something like 1,200 looms or something like that. So how do you manage with, when you are partnering with so many looms, how do you manage to translate your vision of quality, of, creativity, and bring a kind of sense of fashion language that is uniform across these 1,200 looms? How do you manage that process?
I think the first and foremost is that I still design every piece myself, because I still believe that the day I cannot contribute anymore to in the creation work, Byloom will lose its signature, because Byloom's signature is Rumi's and my signature, the way we think, what we feel, how we feel a certain pattern should fall, or how we feel the simplicity or the colors. So I think mostly I believe a lot of the design houses I've seen, they start after some point of time, they start hiring the design students or design people to kind of come and design for them. And I feel there you start losing your signature, because that drawing or that design is particularly from that person, not from you anymore. Although you might be monitoring it and finally seeing that, this is according to the way, but then still the initial thought, everything is of that person and not yours. So then you slowly start going away from your whole signature. So the feel, so that I think is one, is we have never hired designers. Me and Rumi, we still design every piece. I mean, whatever comes out of it, we design. That's number one. Number two, in terms of keeping a quality check, is that since when we had started working over there, we used to work very closely with the grassroots level. Actually, initially, uh, I mean, a lot of the designers, the problem they face is that, what they say or the instruction that they give never comes out the way, the product never comes out the way they have really envisioned it. So I think herein lies of our work process, is that initially when we started working, for at least the first 5 years, every weekend, me and Rumi, we used to take the first train, 4 o'clock a.m. in the morning, the first train, go to Fulia, stay there. Sunday evening, night, we would come back. And that Saturday and Sunday, we would be continuously working with the weavers. They've been like, my ideas were initially so bizarre to them. They couldn't understand what I was saying and what I wanted. Like when I said, I want you to weave the sequin, they were shocked. I mean, they said, we have never done anything like this. It's not possible. And since I know weaving, I sat on the loom with them, showed them how it has to be done over inch or so. And then, I told them that this is possible. So you can do it this way. So because we were always very close to them, working with them very closely, we started getting involved in their lifestyle. We started getting involved in their life, in their lives, in their ups and downs, in their problems. There's so many times we had to solve their family problems because our work wasn't happening because of that. You get involved in it. You become part of their family. And that's how I think this whole way, today when you all say that, how have you managed to change so much? Because they're so, everybody complains that they're so rigid, they don't want to change, they only want to do what they've been doing for so many years, new ideas, they don't want to do new ideas. But with us, we initially faced it, but we had to prove to them, that we were not running away. We actually bought a plot of land and built a house, started staying over there, just to prove to them that we are also a long-term player. We are not going to run away just after one or two orders. So then they started warming up. Then they started opening up. Then when he saw that I could also weave, I sat on the loom and I said, no, I'm not taking a no. You have to weave it this way, and I wove certain parts. Then he started respecting my ideas, because then he started realizing that what I'm saying is logical. Otherwise, what they normally, for others, they completely wave you off because they'll think it's totally illogical because you don't know how to weave. We know how to weave. So it was a long struggle for me to kind of break that glass, and for them to warm up to others. But once that happened, then it was very, very smooth. I mean, now, because and also that we have worked, I mean, the way we work is that once we take on a weaver under our wing and we work with him, our commitment to him is that, I will make sure that your loom will run for 12 months. But your commitment has to be, you have to work as per my instruction, and you cannot work for anyone else, because I take that responsibility and the risk of the product that's coming out of the loom for 12 months, whether I sell or not. So that way he is assured that his income is not going to dry up, because that's what they're scared of. Designers coming from outside is that you're going to work for 1 or 2 seasons and then you're going to go over, because probably it might not be as profitable for you to work with me after that, or something like that, or the trend might change, or the fashion might change. So I think that when we could give them that assurance that we are not running out, we are not going out, we are here to stay, we want to work with your community. As we grow, we want you to grow together. That was the whole idea. And so then they kind of opened up, and then we started doing workshops of quality control. We trained them as to how to measure a pick and a reed, how to measure the threads per inch, what is the quality of dyes we want. We did a lot of dye workshops where we told them that that this is how the quality of dyeing should happen. This is the quality of weave. So we still in our Calcutta office, every sari or piece that comes has a weight, that this is the minimum weight of sari that has to come. So the moment we weighed, we realize if there is less threads or more threads. So this quality control kind of thing we did year after year after year, and then that kind of went in. So now when, even though we don't go to the village as frequently as we used to earlier, but they've already trained the eyes. They have trained. They know that what will be a good quality and what will not be a good quality. The quality of yarns, everything, and they know everything is checked here in Calcutta. So they have a fear that once it's not, if it doesn't meet up the quality, it's going to get rejected. So we had to create all that infrastructure in place before. Today what you see is a system that functions on its own, because all that hard work has gone into it. Another point as to why this thing happens the way it is right now is that initially when we had started working, uh, and normally that's how people work, is they buy the yarn, they do everything and give it to the weaver. The weaver weaves and gets paid for the wages of weaving. What Rumi did is, after 2-3 years, once we had put all these systems into place, the quality control and everything, we told the weavers, we want you to earn a profit along with your wages. It's not just your wages. I mean, we don't want you to be a laborer, but we want you to be part of the creation. So you own the piece. Once that happened, I think they became much more conscious about what they were doing, because every piece got rejected, they were losing out on it. They were getting the wages, but they were losing out on the profit part. So, that making them responsible for their own weaves, for their own products, was a fantastic thing which Rumi did and turned this whole thing. And today we work as partners. I mean, the weaver community and we, Byloom, works as partners. We have a symbiotic relationship, and they know that if they do good, we'll do good. If we do good, they'll do good. If we go down, they'll go down. So it's no more a hierarchy of a designer or a position where I'm always talking to them from the top, saying that do this, do that. No, it's about working together. It's about working together in tandem, in perfect harmony. So that took time to create, but once we did it, today it's a smooth running, self-operating system on its own.
Well, that's great. So basically they became mini entrepreneurs working for, with
Yeah.
you. And that
Yeah,
makes a big difference.
that's exactly what Rumi did. She trained them with accounts. She trained them to open their bank accounts. Initially, when we started, it was funny. They would not say the bill amount of a particular weaver today is 1,000 rupees for a week. He would say 500. You give me 500. So Rumi said, why will I keep 500? He said, no, you keep 500. When I need, I'll take from you. So Rumi said, I'm not your bank. You put the money in the bank. He said, no, we can't put money in the bank. He said, why? They said, we feel that if the money once goes in the bank, it will never come out. So she said, no, it's not like that. So she took them, and also at that point, the banks were not very happy opening their accounts, because they would never, maintain their minimum balance and all of that. So then Rumi trained them that how to operate bank accounts. She gave her word to the manager. Since it's a business, I'm going to make sure there's a certain amount always in the bank. So all that she did, and she actually made them start filing their tax. Which is rare. None of the weavers in the village, they would laugh at us, saying that others don't pay tax, we pay tax. I said, no, if you have to work with us, you have to pay tax. So that's why when demonetization happened, our weaving community was the only community we didn't face anything, because by this time we already had bank accounts, everything running from a long time back. So money not didn't get stuck. They didn't have a problem.
Very interesting. So very forward thinking, the way you've kind of set it all up and taken the viewers along. Clearly, that symbiotic relationship is what helps in taking handlooms forward.
I think people just see us as they just see a product. They don't see the work that has
Yes.
gone behind the brand, the work that has gone behind to create this relationship between the weavers and the brand. It's not an easy thing.
No.
It's not that me go, and that's how I think people they don't want to believe the way we work because it's not normal. It's not normal that and also why because Bengal handloom most handlooms they were always under the influence of the Mahajans.
Yes.
The Mahajans system was a way of working where the Mahajan was the owner. He would buy the yarns, do everything, give the uh, I mean weaver to weave and pay the wage, and they were extorted
Hmm.
because money. I mean wages were never paid to them regularly. They always had a chunk of money with them. So when the weaver left, he would not pay the whole amount. So the weaving community was always at a loss. So Rumi kind of broke that entire system of Mahajans and she fought against it. And she created a whole new system where she started creating entrepreneurs out of them rather than them just sitting and becoming laborers.
Yeah, we're really fascinating. And I was so sure that when I would talk to you, there'd be so much more behind the brand that I would learn than just the appreciation. We love what you put out as work, but I really wanted to actually understand what goes behind the work, and I'm so glad for that. So one of the things I have found with your designs in your brand is that you've got something that appeals to all age groups, and I personally believe that handlooms, unless you start appealing to the younger age group, the girls in their 20s and all that, you won't build a market for the future, because the older people will definitely take to handlooms and wear them and all of that, but the younger girls need to see them as fashionable, need to see them as contemporary. It also then needs to be affordable for their pockets, because they must be just starting out on a job and all of that. But you've managed to make all of that in times where cost bases would have changed tremendously, because in the last 10 years you were in operation. Obviously cost bases have gone through the roof. How do you manage to keep handlooms so affordable yet contemporary and fashionable through this period?
I think our vision comes in here. I mean, why did we start handlooms? Was the vision as to why we started handloom? The reason is I think that kind of guides us here. Why we started handlooms was, as I told you, is to make sure that the skill sustains and the skill is passed on. And for that, we needed to create a healthy, functional, profitable business model for the weaver. So our commitment is still stuck over there.
Hmm.
That's why sometimes people tell us, how do you price your things, and how is an Abhi sari still 850 rupees today? Nowadays you don't get anything. Even a packet of popcorn in a film cinema is like 200 rupees. So but then our commitment, we make profit, but we do not make that huge amount of profit where it will affect our because since our commitment is that we have to give work to them 12 months, so we need to price it in such a way that my cash flow is such that I'm selling it off very fast. So the more I sell, the more work I can go back and give it to them. So this is the motive as to why we started Byloom, and we still should stick to it. So we make profit, but in a way not as much as to actually kill the craft in itself. So since we don't have dead stocks, we can always go back and give more work to them, and that way they also make profit. We also make profit. That's a very transparent way, because today's age, every weaver knows what prices I sell my saris at, because everybody is on the net, everybody sees online, they know exactly, but then they understand, and that's also a training I think which Rumi has done. They understand that why we have to make a certain amount of profit, they have to make a certain amount of. So it's a win-win situation for the three parties. The customer, they get a reasonable, affordable price. We make our profit and we can run ourselves. And the weaver is also making enough where he is sustaining himself and his future generation. So we created this entire business model which functions on this vision of commitment towards giving work to the community back. So that comes the price structure. Now the design aspect is that when we started our work way back in 2002, as I said, that we had thought that, okay, this community, we have to impart all our design sensibility, ability, education, whatever we have had to them, and see that, what comes out of it. And since we were not moving away from the boundaries of handlooms, we were sticking out of the handlooms. So I thought my vision of textiles was that, why should handlooms be only stuck to a certain cliched group? At that time, handloom was either worn by politicians or it was worn by certain NGO type, women. So I thought my handloom sari should be worn at a discotheque. My handloom sari should be worn at a conference. My handloom sari should be worn at a board meeting. So I started giving myself these various situations as to where my sari should be worn, where I would love my sari to be seen, even a fish market, and started putting in elements and sensitizing the fabric in a way which would appeal to that section then. So that's why when I think by 2005, when we started doing our saris, women, when they saw it, they thought, oh my God, all these years I couldn't wear a sari to my office because I would look like a Christmas tree. But today I have something which will make me feel like it's almost like power dressing.
Correct.
Like which would make me feel comfortable and blend along with the black suited tied board members. So we started deconstructing that entire look of what handloom saris stood for. I love that, what handloom sari stands for, that khadi and all of that. But that's a particular look at it. But why shouldn't other looks be incorporated into it when they already have the skill to do it? So that's why we started weaving sequins. That if someone wants to wear a sequin sari to an evening night out, why should she has to go to chiffon and georgettes and embroidered sequin saris? Why can't handloom provide that for her? So we started providing solutions for every possibility where handloom could, push itself. And it was a new market. So it was funny when we did our first sequence sari and we went the Crafts Council Delhi selling our saris. It happened Sonia Gandhi came for that show, and she was hopping from one stall to the other. She came to our stall and she looked at the sequins, and we had named that sari Disco Khadi because the yarns were all hand spun, and we had created pocket, like in the weave itself, we had created pockets where we slipped in the sequins into the pockets. So there was that whole glamour of sequins, and it was made in. So it was two diametrically opposite things which we had brought it together and merged. So we called it Disco Khadi. So she got so fascinated by the name. She said, I don't know if I'll ever wear a sequin sari or not, but I would like to buy all the colors. So she bought kind of all the colors which we had done of that Disco Khadi. So I think that's why we started appealing to every generation, because we started to find out, because by that time, people had already started complaining that weavers used to complain that women are not wearing saris anymore. But I figured women still want to wear saris, But because the lifestyle of a woman in the year 2000 by the millennium had changed so much, she had to go to the office. She had to go from office. She would probably go to a dinner or something like that. She doesn't have the time probably to change saris. So we worked on the drape of the sari, that how the sari shouldn't crush much, the sari should fall well. The whole idea of maintenance of a sari was so high earlier that you have to starch it, you have to iron it, you have to wash it. So we did saris which are soft, you don't need it starching in it. So, we worked on that entire whole range of the demands of women, which was ignored earlier. Because earlier, I mean, when you are at home, you are in a joint family, you have help around you. So maintenance of textiles is easier. But when you are on your own, you don't have time, then the entire need from a textile changes. So
Correct.
no one addressed to that need, and we kind of did that, I think, for the first time. So when the moment, I still have people tell me that when we are in a rush and we open our cupboard and I know I have to drape a sari in 2 minutes, my hand just goes to your sari because it's so easy to drape. So we worked on it. We worked on that entire fall, the drapeability, the feel, and every sari when it comes to my office first, after I've designed it, the first piece comes, I wear every sari and I make the weaver wear the sari. So then only we realize that where we have gone wrong. So we need to maybe change this yarn particularly, which is probably I've been making a little stiff, or maybe changing the reed count or the weave. I'm becoming a bit technical here, but the construction of the fabric needs to change a little bit, or the warp or the wave tries to change a little bit. So these formula keep going on back and forth, and that's how a final piece comes into place. Not everything that I draw and paint comes out as a finished piece. There's a lot of back and forth going forward and backward, and then the final piece comes, which actually goes to the market. So every sari has been thought about. Every sari has been thought about, the feel, the fall. So that is why youngsters, and our colors, I think they appeal to that entire generation. Earlier colors, these colors, at least in Bengal Handlooms, were not, I mean very much done. But so all these aspects put together, I think, probably answers to your question as to the appeal.
So it's nice to know how much of thought has gone behind that, because we obviously think and buy and think, oh, this is quite by accident, this has happened. But this is fantastic, the amount of thought that has gone through it. Clearly it shows.
No, it is really, and we actually probably Byloom became that bridge between the weaver and the consumer, because the consumer probably wanted to buy sari but couldn't find what they wanted to wear, whereas
Yeah.
the weavers knew how to weave but they didn't know what to weave.
So, do you invest a lot in research and development, or everything is based on your own pulse of the market?
I think I don't study the market at all, apart from the needs of a customer. And we also get a lot of feedback, because I still love going to all my exhibitions and staying there at least on the first day, standing. And even if I'm not selling, I'm actually talking to them. And people have so many suggestions, because these are people who actually wear saris every
Yeah.
day, and they have so many suggestions, and I always absorb it, whether I'm implementing it or not. I absorb it, and it kind of stays back in my subconscious, and probably it comes out in my work that way. So I do that consciously, and so yeah, it's I don't really think much. I mean, I sit uh, with a weaver. I think I get inspired by the skill level. I get inspired by the various techniques that they offer, and then I think, oh yeah, this technique particularly, oh maybe I can change it. I love when I can tweak it and make it look contemporary. And I think that's what I enjoy the most. So I'm mostly sitting with the weaver. I'm not talking about I don't think about the trend. I don't think about color forecast. I don't think about what is trendy right now, because I'm trying to make classic pieces. Because saris you don't throw away the next season. You keep it and you pass it on to your daughter or your it's like an heirloom.
Yeah.
So I'm not thinking about the trend. I'm not thinking about anything. I'm just thinking about probably the drapability, the classicness, the beauty of creation, the beauty of creating something unique. and keeping that skill alive. I mean, I think I'm a sucker for that. I just hunt for skills that are dying, and then I want to reinvent it and make it into something which is a modern piece. And like say, for instance, I'll give an example over here. There are Abir saris, which I think are the most popular saris in our stable. How it started? It started on a similar line. These weavers, they were, but their forefathers used to weave only for, we call it in Bengali the mota kapur, the thick cloth, which were woven pre-independence for the independence struggle when Gandhiji called out for boycotting all foreign goods. Villages, I mean, women would not wear petticoats or blouses.
Yeah.
So the sari always had to be very, very thick and heavy. So these were very, very thick cotton saris, very dull, unbleached cotton with just red or black or indigo border. These were worn during the freedom struggle, and these were the iconic uh, Indian struggle images. And so post-independence, the entire essence of that cloth kind of was lost, because now that whole, it's romantic to think about it, but then on an everyday basis, no one would wear it because it's thick and heavy, it's dull. So they were literally in very bad shape. Even Khadi Bhandars were not buying off their produce at that point. They were in such a bad state. So what the government would do at times is, during flood relief or earthquake, they would ask these, because they were all like kind of almost gauzy, very less yarns, and they would order, but in like lakhs, and they would just sit and weave that horrible cloth one after the other and give it to the government. So that's what they had been reduced to. But the whole story behind that, of once they would be weaving that iconic thick cloth, which was worn for the struggle, independence struggle, and Gandhiji's call for boycotting foreign goods, kind of moved me. And I thought, why not, why don't I work on this? And the story was so beautiful. And so they came to me saying that, can you give us some work? So I said, what is your skill? They said, no, we don't have no skill. We can only weave plain cloth, nothing else. So then I thought, okay, let me play. I said, well, if you work with me, you have to make the construction of the fabric much better, because, this is the construction I can't work with, because I can only vouch for a certain quality. Below that, I'm not going to sell it. So they said, okay, so we worked on the construction of the fabric. The loom parts were changed. And I said that, okay, let me introduce, riot of colors, because they never wove color. They were only weaving unbleached cotton. And the dyer of that society was so happy. He said, for the first time, I'll be dyeing colors. He has not dyed colors for so many years. So that's how Abir was formed. And we named it Abir, because Abir is the gulal which we play in Holi, that riot of colors. And we introduced this immense amount of colors. And these are the cheapest, but they take the most amount of time in terms of designing, because you're so restricted, because you can't do any pattern. It has to be only a stripe, a color band. So you have to only play with colors and nothing else. But it gives me immense satisfaction.
You also mentioned that one of your designs won you the UNESCO Seal of Excellence. Which design was that?
That was that pocket sequin where with the disco khadi, which won the Seal of Excellence.
Okay, very,
And
very.
it was so unique, that concept of trapping sequins inside.
Yes.
I think the board just couldn't resist the piece.
Yeah. In fact, the sequins inside the khadi, your abir, of course, and then your ghicha with linen. Those are all
Yeah.
things kind of really revolutionized the market, really. I mean, these are all things people didn't even think could be possible.
Think of to put in a sari, yeah.
Yes. So, absolutely fantastic innovations. Do stay tuned for part 2 of this episode with Bappaditya Biswas. We have a lot more to share and learn, so please do come back for part 2.